Hello and welcome to Beyond Thinking, where we share and discuss about space exploration and humankind. Join us and keep watching. But first, if you like this content, please like and subscribe to hear more about Beyond Thinking. What exactly is time? Time has an inescapable influence on us and is driving us onward even though we cannot taste it, touch it, or feel it. This video offers a potential explanation on why forms warp at speeds close to the speed of light and why time slows down as velocity rises. Let's start with the premise of the concept. Basis of idea. Time is a different dimension. Frequently, parallel worlds that are remarkably similar to ours but have different contexts are referred to as separate dimensions in pop culture. We use the terms three-dimensional space or 3D space to describe the dimensions of space. Three-dimension. In its broadest sense, 3D space simply denotes an area that can be measured in three perpendicular planes. It's crucial that these dimensions are perpendicular. Typically, three-dimensional space is characterized as having height, width, and depth, all of which are at 90 degrees to one another. We and other 3D objects like us can move left, right, up, down, forward, and backward. It's much simpler to visualize what we mean by 2D space and even 1D space when we use this as our foundation. All that's required to travel from one location to another is the removal or addition of a measurement or movement that is an additional dimension and must be at a 90-degree angle to all other angles. 2 and 1 dimensions. A plane that is bordered by the x and y, x and z, or the y and z directions, but not simultaneously by all three is where 2D objects move. Only x, y, or z can be used to move 1D object. To advance from 1D to 2D to 3D, additional directions of movement must be added. Drawing a line that's exactly perpendicular to a single other line or a line that's perpendicular to the two lines just above it are both simple operations. Approximation of 4-dimension. How can we create a fourth line that's parallel to the other three? In the 3D environment, such a thing is undoubtedly impossible. Our best effort is to provide approximations. On 2D paper, for example, it's feasible to approximate a 3D shape. While the lines are all two-dimensional, our brain interprets them as a representation of a three-dimensional shape. Therefore, with only 3D lines, we could definitely create something that resembles what a 4D item may look like. Time is 4-dimension. There is some evidence to support the existence of time as the fourth dimension. In his ideas of relativity, Einstein connected space and time into a single, integrated space-time, stating that time and space are two aspects of the same phenomenon. This has an excellent connection to 4D space because just as there's no discernible difference between the x and y directions and the z, there would also be no distinction between time and space in this scenario. Even if we can't see it, time is only another direction. Our 3D environment wouldn't change without time, because time is what permits us to move around in it. It would always be in a static condition. However, why are we unable to see or glance in the direction of time? Differences between dimensional spaces. To better understand, imagine how 2D objects would appear if they were to travel in the 3D space. Let's start by imagining a typical 3D space and seeing both space and time as a single model. Let's flatten out the entire 3-dimensional world into a 2-dimensional plane. Making this plane our XY plane and labeling it space frees up the Z dimension for time. In this model, every 3D person has been reduced to 2D. In the area shown by the space at the bottom of the chart, a second person might exist and go about their daily activities. But by steadily advancing them up the chart, they're likewise going through time. Let's imagine the future is at the top of the diagram, and the past is at the bottom. Our 2D character ages as they move up the diagram because we don't seem to have a lot of influence over our capacity to travel through time. Let's pretend for a moment that our 2D character moves upwards at a constant speed, as though a steady wind or force is at work propelling them upwards in the direction of the future. Unfortunately, no matter how much we would want to, we can't just slow down time for ourselves by willpower. But to claim that we have no control over it at all is inaccurate. We move across space quicker than time and vice versa. This is one of the principles of Einstein's theory of relativity. Einstein's theories of relativity. The theories claim that the same thing actually occurs in the real world. If observed from outside, objects moving in 3 dimensions at high speed would appear to flatten in that direction. This squishing effect, which is related to time dilation, occurs precisely in accordance with this concept. Although they appear to flatten from the perspective of the traveler, the rest of the universe appears to warp. The world would appear to be farther away while stretching out at the edges of their field of vision. This model was limited to a 2D project. Since it is 3-dimensional in reality, it extends in 2 directions. The power of vector. As our 2D individual tries to move to the left or right, the model can convey the concept through the strength of vectors. They move in a different direction while moving at a constant speed, much like a ship's sail catching a breeze. The vector emanating from their front must constantly be constant because we can only go at the speeds of the wind. Our 2D figure must fully orient this vector upwards or in the future to move through time as quickly as possible. However, they can only move in either direction to their sides by pointing their vector in the opposite direction from where they're moving. They reduce their mobility in the z direction to achieve their current motion in the x direction. To the fullest extent possible, they're traveling through space at the expense of traveling through time a little more slowly. In the direction of x, our person is moving, but not in the direction of z. They have time but not space velocity. This suggests that the speed of causality or light is our vector. Vector or speed of light. Our speed through time would not noticeably change if we were moving slowly through space. Before we began to detect anything, we would need to move very quickly. Still, the vector primarily points upward. It's interesting to note that from the viewpoint of the 2D man, not much has changed. There's still time in the vector emerging from his chest. He is in a space the size of the plane he is resting flat on, and he is in otherwise great health. He quickly realizes that the universe has continued without him after reorienting itself. A second 2D person makes this more understandable. Both people start out stationary in space. They all have vectors that point in the direction of time. It becomes evident that our 2D men have not moved at the same rate through time. The stickman on the right turns and vectors for a little while at close to the speed of light before reorienting himself, while the second 2D man on the left just stays where he is. When compared to the other, who remains stationary, is older. The one who traveled at the speed of light did not advance through time as swiftly. Time is a direction. If time is indeed a direction, this broadens our comprehension of the universe. It also prompts further inquiries. What drives us forward in time on an ongoing basis? Why does it seem that we're unable to combat it? Although a vector could theoretically point downwards in this concept, it never seems to do so in practice. It also provides a solution to the question of how we fit into time. Therefore, a portion of us might project into the past or the future, but according to this concept, that does not occur. In the 4th dimension, we are like flat pancakes. As you look at us directly, we resemble pennies, but as we turn away, you can see how thin we are. This may help make sense of time as a fourth dimension and explain why humans are unable to see across time. If you have any thoughts on the ideas discussed in this video, please leave a comment below. If you have enjoyed this content and would like to see more on space exploration and humankind, please like this video and subscribe for more videos on Beyond Thinking. Thank you and have a Beyonder nice day.